I want to give it a few more minutes and I'm going to get on here and start talking stocks. Tell me if you can hear the voice. I'd really appreciate it if you're listening. I got to mute this thing.
Start talking stocks.
Right there. This will be recorded for later reference if you need to. Well, hello, I love stocks. We'll switch that around. We have a 7-second delay, so that ain't going to matter to you all. The game of this is going to show you how to find supports, pivot points, and resistances on a stock of your choice. Right now, I've just got 4 in here watching, but I'm going to move it on pretty soon, so we'll give it a few more minutes, see if anybody else wants to show up. This will last for about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, depends on how many people start asking questions. Please subscribe, ring that bell for future updates and notifications. Talk about the SPY. I love the SPY. And we got MU on the list, so I'm going to jot it down. I'll probably talk a little bit about Tesla. We did do a video today on Tesla, so be sure to watch that in our channel. But I'll just do an upcap here. I did have a pretty good week last week. You know, we're linked to Trade Exchange. It's always good to be in our channel. Last Friday, when George got in on the that tweet from Elon Musk, everybody in the room jumped on that trade, and it had a pretty good little sell-off from that 886. Well, it really was up in here right around that 864, and had a pretty good little sell-off, and bounced up off on that treat. Said his stock was too high. I think he was a little crazy for that. We'll do Starbucks. Now everybody just gets one choice apiece unless I ask for more. We've got to give everybody a fair chance. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about Starbucks right off the battle. You heard what old Elon said. He said his stock price is too high, and then he started talking about freedom and everything else in America. There's probably 3 catalysts that I think can really bring this stock really down bad, and that would be if something ever happened to Elon Musk, maybe a little bit of more short-lived sanction fines from SEC. I think could be another catalyst, and then maybe a few lawsuits start pouring in because people are getting tired of these little tweets that he's putting out. It definitely affects the stock price. So that's why I think we could be seeing another pullback and we could not, but I've got a low support right around this 651.34 area on Tesla. And then the breaking part of it would be right around this 730 area if it decides to go ahead and bounce back up. But I expect it to pull back a little bit more and really need it to hold this 650 area. If not, we're going to pull back to this other lower channel right under $600. I'd say, more or less around 595 area, because I'm looking at this ascending triangle. And I talk a lot about chart patterns in the room. Well, this here is what you call an ascending triangle from after hours to pre-market. So that builds a pretty strong support here at 595.47. It could be adjusted a little bit lower, a few cents lower, maybe around 595.40. Or even lower than that, maybe right around 594. So somewhere in between that 594 and 595.47 if it decides not to hold this 650 area. And this is going to be Tesla. So we'll magnify this up one more time. Keep it on that little watch list. But it did get affected by the tweet. He says the price is too high. I think he was just talking smack. I'm kind of used to his tweets, so I don't let it influence my trade, but I definitely will follow the trend. And when he posted that, we were on this real fast, like probably before the media, even most of the media got to see it. It started getting talked about. People were thinking it could have been what do you call that? Somebody jumping in there and doing the tweets himself. But then they realized it wasn't. It was actually him. And by the way, his new girlfriend's going to be having a baby this weekend too, so that can throw off a lot of people. So keep an eye on Tesla. I don't want to see it go no lower than 651. First support right around the 672. That third one, and then that first one's right around here at 686, with a resistance to break right at 730. And we're going to talk about MU. Joe wants to know a little bit about MU. Micron. You kind of get a little bearish sentiment this coming week due to the news that Buffett put out saying he got out of all the airline stocks and he's holding cash, and he's probably sounds like he's waiting for another pullback in the market. But I'm not too happy that he sold his airlines. If they dipped so far down, it just seems to me like he just threw away money. I would have probably bought more at the dip if it got below, like AAL, if it got below $10. But we're going to talk about MU right now. Micron. Micron had a nice little pop on it this week. He's a beautiful little trend right here from around 45.87. Let's take a little look at the yearly chart. I'm going to go ahead and clean this all up. Start fresh. Got to start fresh every once in a while. I use four different kind of moving averages: the 200, the 100, the 34, and the 9 EMA, along with my TTM trend chart. It's TTM trend. And I'm real good at finding breakouts and supports and pivot points, and that's what these lessons are all about on the Sunday or Saturday or whenever day I pick to do these. And I'm want to keep this up, let it go on for about 2 hours, and just kind of get us warmed up for the coming week. And I hope everybody appreciates that. So we're going to look at MU right now. We're going to pull up the news and see if I see anything in the news that could be a catalyst for the pullback. Several technology companies are trading higher in market strength. Yeah, I got NOGILD. That was a pretty good little deal. Bruce and AMD Tuesday. AMD pulled back too to lower support. Micron unveils world's first open source storage engine designed for SSD storage class memory. So we're bullish on Micron. We've had lower highs, as you can see on the yearly chart right here. We're going to try to find a pivot point on the year. This is a yearly chart, daily. So we kind of want to look for a place where we've had kind of a midpoint, and I'm looking at right around in here, right around in this area right in here, because I'm seeing it kind of touch down here. We hit a little bottom right there off that 100 on the yearly, and it bounced right up. Then we had a little resistance right in here and right in here where it couldn't. And so we're going to call this a yearly pivot. And I'm going to magnify it up. And I'm thinking, I got to kind of even this out with these other ones. So I'm thinking right about in here. And I'm going to go ahead, and that's going to be 44.88. So that's going to be our yearly pivot point. And I want to try to find 3 support levels below it and 3 resistance levels above it. I'm magnifying this down. I'm seeing a good little place right in here. I'm looking at these candles where we had a dip here. You kind of have to picture it. You know, I'm seeing a little spot in here, right in here. I'm seeing all this congestion right in here. I'm seeing this right over here, and I'm seeing this right in here. So I'm going to kind of line this up to where I think that first support's going to be, and that's going to be right there at 43.47. So that was going to be a pretty solid support. And then we got one lower support, and that's going to be right here on this level right here. We're going to kind of build it up a little bit and put it right around this spot right in here at 42.16. And see where it's kind of consolidated right in here. So there's our 3 supports, or at least 2 of them. I can't see it going any lower down here to the 41. If it does, it's going to be a strong buy. And I got that from right over here. And these resistance levels right here, this support level right here. So that 41.01 is going to be a strong buy on MU. Now we're going to look for resistance levels on the yearly. And I'm thinking maybe right around here, right around the 46.19 area. Could bring it down a little bit lower. Let's bring it down to this spot right in here where this candle on the daily dipped down to. And we're going to go ahead and make that a resistance level at 45.92. Then we got to break this resistance right in here, and I'm looking over here to the right, and I'm seeing all this congestion right in here, and I'm definitely seeing this resistance level right here. So we're going to put another one right there. Oh good, I didn't get it in there. Put it right there. Then we're going to bring another one up for a long resistance, and it's going to be the bottom of this candle right here at 47.91. So I'm going to take this pivot point area that we called up, turn it into a red line. Bam! There it goes. So we got a pivot point area right here at 44.88 with that first support right down here at 43.97, 42.16, and 41.01. Resistance levels are not going to be too big of a spread, but if it catches up momentum and gets some news going on, we could have that first resistance channel right here between 45.92 and 46.50, with the next 2 resistances at 47.91 and 49.32. And that's going to be MU. How's that, Joe? The next one we're going to talk about is going to be the SPY. Josie wants to look at the SPY. I hope you're spying on me, Josie. So we're going to pull up the SPY. I'm thinking maybe we're going to have I'm still bullish in the market. You know, even with all the things that are going on and going around. Today, they're opening up our city here in Springfield, Missouri. And I see other places are starting to open up. You get California starting these protests. People are getting a little, unwild. The coronaviruses infections are coming down a little bit. So we've hit a kind of a curve. We've had all these stimulus packages. We've had all these bailouts and even the American people have had bailouts. I hope you received your $1,200 check. But we're going to go ahead and look at the SPY, and I'm going to find a yearly pivot point on the SPY. And that yearly pivot point was right here at 284. We're going to turn that into a red line. Make that a little bit thicker. So that's going to be kind of our little pivot point area. And you see this candle almost closed right at that area right over here. If I magnify that up, we almost closed right there at 282.79. And I have a 284.59 little pivot point. So we're below that pivot point area. We're going to try to find a couple of support levels in here. I got to just go with the daily candles, and I look for the bases. And we got another one right there at 280.67. And then another support right down in here. And I've been doing this for 15 years, so I kind of recognize them real fast, the consolidated areas. And I'm looking up and down and sideways on the chart here. And we've got another one right down here. SPY is kind of hard to tell until you follow the trend and know which way the market direction is going to go. We did have a nice recovery. Let me pull up the Fibonacci chart. And get a better glance on that yearly with the Fibonacci, and we'll see where we are on it. So we've had our 50% retracement right down here, right around the 278.45 from the high to the low on the yearly chart. And I usually look for 50% and maybe run it up to that other area, which is right here, right around the 61%. We did not reach that yet. We did have a pretty sharp pullback on Friday. There's still, we still have bearish market sentiment because we're combating two different players in this. We have what you call the retail traders, and then we have the institutional buyers, or the fat cats are on Wall Street. And I do believe one day that the institutional buyers will be pushed out and the retail traders will take control of the market, which I kind of think they kind of have done right now. But the institutional buyers are a little bit smarter than the retail. We kind of run with trends and the fundamentals. I mean, the technicals compared to where the institutional buyers run more off the fundamentals of a trade. So we've got different support levels. We're going to pull this up to the 20-day on the SPY. We're going to say that first support is going to be right down here, right around the 280 area. That 280 needs to hold. We can pull back into the lower part of this channel if we do have some more bearish days next week. I've been doing pretty good on both these bearish and bullish days because I have me a pretty good little watch list that I follow on a daily basis. I don't need Stella or a scanner or anything like that because I've been doing this for so long. I have so many support watch stocks to watch. So that yearly pivot point's at 284 right here, 284.50, and we got three resistances that go above, and then we're going to have these supports that are going to go down below. The low support no lower than 272 for a strong buy, and when I say low, I mean if it gets there, that's where I'd start taking the trade, and that would be a low support. And then you've got these other little support areas right in here, and that probably that third support channel is going to be right here between 275.62 and this other one right here, right around the 277. I'm going to magnify this up a little bit so maybe I can see these numbers a little better. 277.30. So I'm going to draw that in with a colored pen. Feel free to stop these videos at any time once it's recorded and take these charts and use them for your own personal use. So that first channel of supports, third channel of support's going to be right down here between the 275.62 and that 277.30. The second set, and then you got your second support at 278.52, and then that first one right here at 280.67, and maybe here at 281.86. Because that's where we kind of hit and consolidated. That has to hold come Monday morning. If not, we're going to go on down to these other three support areas. That low support again, 175.62. The low at 272.85 for a strong buy. Third support at 275.62 and 277.30 with that second one right here at the 278.52 with that first one right in around the area of 280.67 with a pivot point resistance to break at 284.50 and then on up to these next three resistances. And that's going to be the SPY. Check, check. Starbucks. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the room. We're going to be talking about pivot points, resistances, and supports. Got them backwards there, but that's what this is basically going to be about. So let's talk about Starbucks, and I allow everybody in here to have one pick apiece. If we run out, I'll ask people to throw in another pick, and this will go on for approximately 2 hours. And I think we started about 15 minutes ago. So the next one we're going to talk about is going to be Starbucks. Now, I was really surprised with the earnings. It really shook me. I thought they were going to be a lot worse than what they were. We did have a bounce off them earnings, and it did run up. But last week we had a 3-day pullback. And I'm going to erase this cup and handle. Looks like I got a couple of handle here somewhere. So we'll get that out of here. Remove drawing. Kind of look at the yearly chart first. And we're talking about Starbucks. I always go to the yearly chart first. In fact, I'm going to erase everything on here. I'm going to start fresh. Definitely had a nice little pullback on it on the yearly chart. We're bounced up back to the 50% retracement value, which I consider a pretty good deal. And then none of the stocks have hit that 61-80% factor. Well, some of them have, some haven't. Some are doing very well. Starbucks is not a cocooning play. It's not a Corona play. But they did reopen a lot of stores in China. At least that's what they say. And there's a lot of people like their coffee and tea in China, that's for sure. So we're going to look for a pivot point on this chart. And that pivot point started right in here, right over here where we had this low right here on the yearly chart. We're going to tap that in right at 75.60. So that's going to be our resistance to break, which is a pivot point. And if you're not familiar what a pivot point is, it's a place on the chart where the stock or the entity decides to take a break and go to resistance, or it makes up its mind and it decides to pull back to support. So that's a very critical place to go. And if you're down in support, I use that pivot point as a resistance breaker. And if you're at resistance, I use that pivot point as a support area. So I don't know if I made that clear enough, but I always try to look for the pivot point when I'm starting to chart out a chart just to see where I am. I can look at a chart within 10 seconds and let you know if I want to trade it or not. But I also like to check out the news and be in the now. So it's very, anybody that says they don't believe in trading in the now, they're not worthy to be followed. Because being in the now is what makes a stock move. So always remember that quote come from Washboard Jim, and I'm sincere about that. So we're going to try to find some supports and resistance levels. We know that we've had the worst already. We know that the economy is not in very good shape, but I'm telling you, these people cannot live without their Starbucks. It's a necessity for a lot of people. Just to get them going, get their day started. I personally like to make my own coffee because I know where it's coming from and I know where the beans are, and I love my coffee. So we're going to try to find us a support level here, and I'm going to be looking at this area right in here where we had this kind of like ascending triangle, and that resistance support level is going to be right there, right around the 73.79 area. 73.96 actually is where it is. Then we're going to try to find another support level right here oh, that's beautiful right here. So I'm looking at these candles. To me, this part of the candle is the most important part. Every candle tells a story, and the wicks are extra credit. They're not as strong as the base of the candles on a daily chart. So I'm trying to look for places that have consolidated. As you can see, we've had two little tops right here. We pulled back right here. We have another spot right here. Then that wick kind of posts right here. So that's going to be a good solid support area. And we're going to bring it down to right here, right on these two. These are the strength of the candles. And we're going to bring that right down there to that support level. And that's going to be 71.56. Now anybody that follows me knows how accurate I am with these charts. It's the only reason is because I've done over 1 million. in my lifetime. And I've been at it for 16 years, studying these trend lines. And I'm looking for a spot right here. See where we had this little candle right here? And we had this little base right here, and these are on the daily chart, daily candles. So we're going to draw one more down here, just kind of hit the bottom. And I'm thinking I'm going to go off this one because I'm seeing all these touches right in here. I'm seeing all these touches right in here. And I'm using the wicks this time for a support level because this reason right here. See how that touched down and how they're all just lining up there? So we're going to go ahead and magnify that. I got to go down just a little bit lower. Got to have good steady hands to get this job done. So we did after the drama. I expected to pull back a little bit more, but we could have found some resistance level right here off this 34 EMA. As I've seen, it's bounced off this a few times here in the past month and a half. So this thing could curl back up around. I find that to be a good solid support right there. But the first support we're going to say right here at 71.56. This is Starbucks. Then you've got your next two support levels no lower than 68.43. I like to see that hold, keeping that trend going up. And I always like to draw a little trend line. And I'm going to show you that I just now noticed when I'm drawing these up to try to find indicators of supports. And I'm thinking maybe right about here off the bottom of this wick. So we've definitely broke out, and we didn't hold that trend line. We fell out of that trend line last week. So it is in a correction mode. So maybe this first support, second and third, we could hit and then have a retracement back up to that resistance level. And that resistance level was right. I'm going to pull this back up on a yearly and draw that red line in. I think it was that top of that. Yeah. Let me go ahead and draw this in a red line so I'll know that that's a resistance. Or a pivot point on the yearly. Then we got to try to find resistance levels. We're going to go ahead and bring this up here. Right there. Yeah. I'm going over here off the bases of these candles. Let's pull this up to 20-day now. See if I missed anything. We got one more resistance right up in here. Okay. Solid low, strong buy. Right down here, right around the 68 area. 68.29. Probably your third support's going to be around 70. And that probably that second support's right around here at 71.56. Then I'm going to find a little place right in here for your first support, and that's going to be right around the $73 area. Resistance to break has got to be this 75.50 area, and then bring it on up to these next three resistances. So I'm semi-bullish, bearish on this trade. I was kind of unpleasantly, let's say, satisfied with the earnings, but I do think it can pull back a little bit more and then start to have a little momentum. That's going to be Starbucks. I hope that helped you out, Joe. And Ernest, you want to look at W. Let's look at it. Richard, let's take a look at W here. I haven't looked at W, don't think. Let's pull up the yearly chart, and I'm going to pull up the news, and I'm going to do another thing too. Now, for people that are interested in trying to find a float on a stock, it's always good to go to FinViz. I trust Trade Ideas. No, I don't trust them fully. I have more respect for the FinViz numbers, so I always try to look at the FinViz for when I'm looking at floats. And this is a 63 million float, so it's under 100 million. It's not considered what I would call a low float, which is under 25 million or more. And then a lot of your low floaters don't take the trade until it hits 2.5 million. And then it has to have a real good catalyst at 5 million on up for them to start really getting interested. But let me tell you something about the way the low floaters trade. They like to trade off the news. and they like to trade off the momentum, and they like to trade off the float size. And sometimes it doesn't matter what kind of news it is, but you got to determine what is good news and what is bad news, and what will make a stock keep its highs and what will not. A lot of these breakouts, they pull back on you pretty fast. Well, that's the low float people in there taking their profit, and I'm fine with that. I have no issues with low float traders, because they're part of my team too when it comes to me wanting to get into trade. I always look at the float. So we're looking at 63 million on W. Let's pull back the chart. Let's go to my Fibonacci here. 50% retracement on the yearly charts right around the 94 area. And I can pretty much respect that as a pivot point, because you've got this gap right in here between the 101.50 and down here at the 187.67. So let's go ahead and put that, and let's go ahead and draw that yearly pivot point right in here off this candle right here. I kind of see where it kind of hesitated right here at one time. So at 93.53, and we've definitely broke up way above that. We've had a nice little breakout. So we're way above that pivot point area on a yearly chart. I'm going to pull up the news. Analyst actions, Oppenheimer lifts Wayfair's price target. Price target to 160 from 120. That's a nice little catalyst for an upgrade. Maintains outperformed to 160 by Oppenheimer. Quarterly results next week. So quarterly results are coming out. Am I correct? Earnings are coming out soon. So we want to do some homework. Wedbush has it at, oh man, they doubled the price, 145 to 75. I'm definitely on what happened here. They downgrade to a hold from a buy, thinking the price should be. Yeah, see these people here, they don't know what the heck they're doing. Stifel, I don't know if you ever heard of them or not. I'd rather take the bullish ones because I kind of respect Oppenheimer and Wedbush. I don't even think I've ever heard of this Stifel. So we're going to look for little support levels and resistance levels. We're going to take it from right here and draw a little channel right here, support. At 108, that's way low. And then you have another one right here, right around this. So that's a pretty good run, definitely. And I'm just going to the top of these candles right here, and then I'm going to do a final one right in here. See how it consolidated for 5 days and just couldn't hold that? That's a hard resistance level or support. We'll pull this back. As I'm talking about W right now, and for anybody that just jumped in the room, I'm Washboard Jim. I'm from I Love Stocks. I work with Vegas, and she's a very good one to follow. She's a very good trader. I've been following her for 3 years now. We've traded every day for 3 years. So I respect how this lady trades, and she's really getting into options, and that's something that we would like to see more of. We're going to go ahead and bring this up one more to 138. And I'm seeing a little spot right in here I need to jot down. See this right in here? That little gap? And what did I say with the yearly? I should have darkened that in. This is going to be the yearly pivot point. I got to see what I did here. I'd almost say this would be the pivot point. I think I will. If I change my mind on that, there's a reason for it. Yeah, there we go. So we're at resistance levels for right now. It did get some upgrades, and it did get one downgrade, which I don't really take too much salt with that downgrade. But we have had a nice run since the pullback, and that was all the way down. I mean, this is a $100 bounce. You see what I'm saying? That's probably why it got the downgrade, because it's run too much. Some people would say it's a little overextended. So if it pulls back, support level is going to be no lower than this 109. And let me pull up the 20-day and see if I see anything different on here. Maybe right there. Okay, we've got the first support right here at 122. Let me magnify this up a little bit. 122, 117, and then this other one's going to be right down here at 114. And then strong buy is going to be at that 108.86. And resistance to break has got to be right here at 125.14 up to these next three resistance levels at 130.59, 134.39, and then 138.22. Feel free, like I said before, to stop, to copy and paste, snip, or whatever you have to do to hold these charts up. Just always remember they come from I Love Stocks. So I'm semi-bullish. I think it's a little overextended, and it's due for a small pullback. No lower than that 108.86 with a resistance to break right around the 125.14, and that's W. The next one we're going to talk about, I hope that helps out a little bit there, my friend, Richard. And who's next here? Carl. Hey, Carl. Okay, UEC. We'll do UEC next. Carl is a respected trader in our room. He's done some videos. We're going to look at his stock right here. UEC. I like UEC if it can break 120 for a short squeeze idea. What do you think, Jim? Let me look at the yearly chart, and then I'm going to look at the news. Oh man, this thing's had a nice little run too. We did break a resistance level on the yearly chart right here at 114.29. So, I'm kind of looking at it, looking at a yearly pivot point right in this area, right. We busted past. I'm going to pull up a 3-year chart just to see something. Yeah, I think this is a good little spot for a pivot point. We got one lower right down here, and I'm going with this on the 3 years. So I'm just going to draw that in there for now. And we're going to pull up that yearly again. We've got a support level right here, right around that 109. I love playing these kind of trades, especially it's had such a great run. Let's see what kind of news we got here. Applauds the nuclear fuel working uranium trade. So this is a uranium trade. Now, what do I think when I think uranium? I think we're having a little bit of issues with China right now. So that could be a small catalyst for uranium to run up a little bit. They threatened to show off their nukes last week or a week so ago. They got into it with Iran a little bit, not in a war, but Iran seized one of their ships. So, I always got to have a little bit of uranium on the side just in case. I'm seeing if there's any more news in here that operating expense and timing of expenditures being taken to lower operating. So they're lowering their operating expense. Drilling program to be postponed. Remote. Okay. So I think we hit a resistance level on the yearly chart. And it needs to pull back just a little bit. We did have a pullback on it Friday to that dollar level, and I love that when it bounces off that dollar. That shows a sign of solid support. You start getting below $1, it starts to get a little greasy, and then it gets into the oversold territory. So we're going to put that right here. I'm going to put that right there at the bottom of that candle. Then I'm going to put another support level right down here where we hit resistance and it pulled back, and then we had that nice little bounce up. This would have been a good one to have on your watch list when it come time for that. When the market tanked, that's for sure. Then we got to pull up to 20. Well, I got to draw this line in here. We're going to pull, because I did right here on that top of that base of that candle. So we're going to pull up the 20-day, see if I missed anything. We got a resistance level that needs to break at 118.09. And then we got that 120. So I'm going to go back to the yearly chart and try to find a few more resistance levels. We got one right here at 120.05. I think we hit that right in here. I'm looking at the base of this candle. Then we have a huge gap up. And it's really not that much. So that 128.57. Now let's go ahead and call this trade out. I think I've got enough in here. It could pull back to this 200, which is a solid support, but that would be a strong buy if it ever did touch at 93. Yep. Third support channel is going to be right down here between 98 and $1. And then you got your second and your first support levels, 104, 108.68, with the resistance levels of 118, 120, and then that 128 area. And that's going to be UEC. It's a uranium play, so you kind of want to be a little cautious with it. It could be due for a little small pullback. It has built a channel here for the past week and a half. So it's having trouble breaking the resistance, and we did have a lower high the last time it did try to. And we had a lower high on a Friday, but she did break out and move back up into the day, into close, which is a positive sentiment. And that's UEC. How's that, Carl? PayPal's next. I'm going to write this down so I won't forget it. And then I'm going to get me a drink of water. And I'm going to look at PayPal. Got to have my water. I drink 8 of them a day. So let's look at PayPal. PYPL. Go ahead and clear these. Are 2019 trend lines, so I'm going to clear them all out. But I'm going to show you something about my trend lines. See how they all just kind of fall right into place. These are 2019 trend lines. That's why, my accuracy on these trend lines are pretty good. And these are extended out for another year. So I call this strategy that I use an extended trend line method. And I can use trend lines that go back 2 or 3 or 4 years. But if they start to get clustered up like this, I like to go ahead and erase them and start fresh. And that's what we're going to do. I can use the same trend lines over and over and over again. And I, 80% of the time, rely on them trend lines. Because I'm that confident in them. So 115.98. Let's look at the yearly chart on PayPal and see where we are. Before I get any kind of, oh, look at that. I mean, this is a beautiful comeback. All the way to a double top on the yearly chart. We haven't seen anything like this here in any of these tickers that we've talked about so far. So we did hit a resistance level, and it has pulled back. PayPal. And we're going to try to find some other places that we can find resistances and supports. We did have a high up here. And we're just going to kind of draw it off this and see where it lines up on these other trend lines. And lines up pretty good. I'm going to bring it down just a, well, yeah, I think this is good right here at 121.33. Like I said before, I use a lot of these bases. And we're talking about PayPal right now. And I definitely see a spot right here. I want to draw me a trend line off this red candle. And then we have another one right down here off the bottom of this green one right here. And I'm using the base, not the wick. It's the base, baby. Daddy saying bass, Mom saying tenor. Or is it Mama played bass and Daddy sang tenor? There we go. Okay. So we've got support levels and we got resistance levels. And we definitely hit a double top resistance level. So it could pull back a little bit. And I'm thinking maybe no lower than this 116 area. 115.98 would be a real strong buy. And I'm going to turn that into a red line. That's going to be your solid third support. First, I'm going to bring it up to the 20-day and see if I've missed anything before I call this out. Pretty much lined up. Pretty much what we got. So we're going to try to see if we can get in on a pullback. But if we get a triple top breakout, it's going to be here at 124.40. And that's going to be a triple top breakout, and that could be a new catalyst to bring it up on PayPal. We did break past this one resistance level right here, and there's another one right in here at 122.10. Solid support's going to be right down here at 119. Let's magnify this up a little bit. 119.39 is going to be your solid support. If it goes below that, we could be hitting in this other area right down here at 116 to 118. But I'd like to see this 119.39 hold. You see how we've have higher lows on the pullbacks, which is a bullish sentiment. So we could be anchoring up for a triple top breakout at 124.40. And that's going to be PayPal. I hope that helps you out, Mr. Hendricks. Mayo. The Mayo Chase. Let's look at Mayo. MYO. Feel free to stop these videos at any, or snip and keep these charts for your own personal use. Just don't share them with anybody. Mayo marking, first quarter guidance, record growth, first quarter records growth, 12%, shares up 12% on heavy volume on positive first quarter news, 1Q news. So that kind of leaves me a little semi-bullish on the trade, reading the news right there. I have low support on Mayo, no lower than this 410 area. Let's pull up the yearly chart again. Yeah, this thing's way oversold. We did have a nice little breakout right up in here. Right up in here. You see that? How beautiful that was? Man, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and pull up that 20-day. Thinking no lower than 410. That 410 area between 410 and 405 needs to hold. That's going to be your third support. Your second one's going to be right in here, right at 420. Then you got that 439. That's going to be your first. And there's a little spot right in here at 450. So I'm going to call that a little pivot point area. And then you got your resistance levels. And that's going to be between, if we pull back to this lower support of 420, or even lower than this, we got to use these areas as resistance levels. But for right now, I think that 405 and 410 is going to be a real solid third support, low support, with the third one being at 420. And then you have the 439, and then you have that first one right here at 450, which is, we're going to call it a pivot point. And the resistances to break is going to have to be right here, right around the 479 area. And then the hard resistance between 495 and 503. Now, if you can break that 503, you'll be lucky to get 542 out of it. So I kind of play it on a pullback and then a bounce back up. That's how I look at this trade. And that's Mayo. If you're in it right now, don't be too worried about it until if it doesn't hold this 405, that's when I really start to have concerns. But if you start to see a retracement, I might cost average down and try to get out at an earlier resistance level. MYO. My Apple going off on me next to me. So when is next? I think MGM was good last week. So we have to kind of think these aren't your cocooning plays. These are the buy on dip plays. WYNN. But now that the country's starting to open back up, and we'll find out how the restrictions are with these hotels and these casinos, how they're going to manage through the slow process of reopening up the country. We have had a nice little run on it last week, and I think I give a lot of credit to MGM for the catalyst that caused a lot of these casino stocks to bounce up, and some of these hotel stocks. Once they open up the airlines and they open up the borders, these stocks will definitely have a nice little recovery. But for right now, we're battling resistance areas, and we got to play the dips and the pullbacks. I wouldn't jump right in it and expect resistance to go on up. I'd jump in it on a pullback and then play it up that way. So we have support level right here at 79.60. Resistance levels to break. Let me look at the yearly chart one more time. We've had higher lows. We did break resistance level here last week, and that was right here at 83. Right here at 83. There we go. 83.90. So we got a low support at 71.39. And then I'm going to draw a couple more resistance lines up here. It's going to be hard to break that resistance level, I think, for now, $89. If we do, you're going to have a nice little run up to maybe right around the 92 area. But that's going to be a hard little resistance to break. I think it can pull back for another day or two and then start to retrace back up. Go to a 20-day chart. 71.39 is going to be a strong buy. Your third support right here at 74.46. And then that second one is going to be at 77.51, running into that 200 EMA, and that first one right here at 79.60. Resistance to break is going to be 83.90 on up to these other three. Actually, I see this spot right in here. I need to chalk this down for resistance to break at 82.41. Why I did that is because that's where we consolidated here, and that's where we tried to break out here before. So that's a pretty hard resistance. If we can break 82.40, we'll move up to these other three. For right now, I think we'll get a small little pullback, maybe no lower than this 79.35, maybe somewhere in this channel, right in here, between the 77.28 and the 79.60, with a resistance to break at 82.40 on up to these other resistance levels. And that's a win. I hope that helps you out a little bit. Always remember, do your own due diligence. Just use me as a reference point. I'm not a god to supports, pivot points, and resistances. None of us are. But if you see what I'm seeing sometimes, it's just a catalyst to ensure you that maybe he's right or that you're right. So that 71.39 is going to be a very strong buy. If it dips down $10, I'd be all over this trade to rise back up. And the next one we're going to talk about is BKYI. What is a pivot point? A pivot point is a place on the chart that has a decision to make. It has a decision to make to go either to a resistance level or pull back to a support level. So it's a technical place where a stock tries to make its decision on which way it wants to go. It usually consolidates in that place and then it bounces up, or it says, okay, it's not ready yet, and it pulls back. And then also when a pivot point, when a support level pulls back, that pivot point can become a resistance area. And then it only becomes a pivot point once it breaks that and goes to a resistance and pulls back. So it's always a thinking place for a stock on which direction it wants to go. You have different resistance levels, and you know what them are. Those are the high spots, and there's usually 3 good ones. Then you have a support level, and they can go down to 3. Sometimes they go to 4 or 5. I bring mine down to like a strong buy, low support, and then I have my 3rd one. But remember, that pivot point is just a destination on the chart where the stock can either go up or pull back. It's a decision maker. BKYI, I hope that helps you out, RPP. BKYI. And I'm not scared to talk about penny plays. So if you have some, we're going to look at the news. 12 stocks moving. I want to look at the, also going to want to look at the float. That's also a determining factor. We got a 6 million float on this stock here, BKYI. Key reports received grace period to regain compliance. That's good news. So they were regaining compliance on December 4th. That'll be tomorrow. Oh, no. Excuse me. Oh, man. Let me read this again. Receives grace period to regain compliance from NASDAQ. It has been extended to December 4th, so I don't know why that, of 2020. So it's given us a lot more room to play with this trade. It's not putting too much pressure to become compliance. Now we're up here to a dollar level. So if it can stay above the dollar, it can regain compliance on its own. We got to look at the market cap. Excuse me. So they're giving us more time, which is good idea. So let's pull up the early chart. We're definitely the pivot point was right around here, right around the 95.25 area. We've had a nice couple bumps up on this stock, which means we got to break a resistance level, which is right in this channel right in here, between the 120.53 and the 131 area. So that's going to be kind of a hard resistance area to break, because we tried to do that before for a couple months and it couldn't do it. So let's go ahead and draw in our little please subscribe, ring that bell for our future updates. Vegas Knives already done a couple videos today. Please watch them. If you like them, hit that like button. But always ring that bell for future updates. And I'm going to call this a little resistance level right in here. Tell your friends that I'm going to be doing this on every weekend if I can. So we got a little place right here. I'm going off this candle right here for a resistance level. And then I'm going to go back one more down here where I see we had this bottom right here. We're going to pull up the 20-day. I'm semi-bullish on this trade. I got to watch the volume and what's coming in on the trade itself. We're at 114. We closed at 109, so it bounced up after hours. We got to break a resistance of that 114 to 117, and then up to this other channel. And it could have, if it breaks past that other channel that I talked about, we could be going higher on the trade. we do have a nice little lower highs. I mean, I really like this trajectory right here where we've had the lower highs, the higher lows, the higher lows. And we got a support level right here, right at $1. And we got another one right here, between here and right here. Okay, so I'm pleasantly pleased that they've extended the date for the compliance thing until the end of the year. That gives them enough time to start bringing the momentum up on this stock. We need to stay above $1 for it to be a strong play. If not, it can pull back to this 85-cent area and maybe right in here at the 91-cent area. Somewhere in this channel will be a strong buy area. If it does pull back to 85 to 91, 92 cents, I'd be getting in the trade for a strong buy. Your second, third channel of support is going to be right in here. Let me magnify this up a little bit. Okay, strong buy between 85 and 91. Then the next channel of support, which is going to be your third, between 95 and $1. And then I like to see $1 hold to $1.03. That $1.03 is going to be a solid support, and I'm going to call that not oversold area. I'm going to call that stable. If we can stay above that $1, then we're going to go ahead and stay in this channel. But I do like the higher lows, and I do like how it's setting up. We did have a nice little run right after hours. Somebody likes that stock. We need to break resistance of 116. And we'll pull up this year one more time. If we can get past this 130, we definitely can start bringing it up to a little bit higher spot, maybe to 150. And that'll be a 50% retracement on the yearly chart. And that's where I'd probably exit if it decides to go ahead and break this resistance that we have here at 140 or 120, 118 area. And that's going to be, so yeah, I'm semi-bullish on it. I'm probably going to watch this trade Monday and see what, maybe scalp it. If it does pull back below that $1 into that 85 to 90 cent area, that's where I'd want to probably take the trade myself. Now I'm going to talk about space here. Let me see what else. BKY, we got the pivot point question answered. Thank you for the great analysis, Jim. Okay, space. I got in space Friday on an option play, and then they came out with an offering. Now that offering doesn't scare me as much as a shelf offering would, so I'm not too concerned about that offering. They probably need a little bit of money, but they just said, IPO just opened up, right around that $12, $11 area. This was a wonderful trade from 690. They had good news last week, so they had a good catalyst for this stock to go ahead and start to break out and maybe find a resistance level right around the $20 area. And we're talking about space right now. So they had a successful flight. This stock's not affected much by the economy. It's only for millionaires and billionaires that want to take them a little flight to space, a little vacation stay. It's kind of like Tesla in a way. People think just because the economy's bad that Tesla cars aren't going to sell. Well, Tesla cars are for the rich, for the upper class. It's something to show off, So I've got my supports and my pivot points already on here. We're going to pull up the 20-day. This is SPCE. 1591 has to hold, no lower than that. We have another support level right in here, right around this area here. So like I said, I'm in this options trade. I just got one for now. But I bought the May 8th $19 strike, for $1.45. And if this stock doesn't work for me, or maybe I might get it more of it on the great pullback if it does decide to pull back. But for right now, I'm even on it at 145. That's just the option play that I made on it. Support level right here. Okay, so I've got a bunch of support levels here. I can't see it going no lower than this area right in here at 1630 if it decides to pull back. So that's what I'm going to call a solid support level. Then I'm going to run in there and get me some water after this next one. So that's a low strong buy at 1629. Then you got your other three support levels at 1670, 1707, and 1743. Resistance to break has got to be this area right here at 1785 to right around the 1808 area. Now it's going to be a hard resistance. I think it can retest that and bounce up and break that 1808. If it does, we're going to go up to these other levels at 1447 and maybe right in here right around the 1888. And if we can break 1888, we're going to get up into this new channel. But my target is going to be right here at 1970, or a little under 1970, somewhere around there. And that's going to be space. Like I said, I'm bullish on space. I've been bullish on space since I called it out at $7. It ran all the way. I mean, it had a beautiful run. And it pulled back here in the last 20 days. We did have kind of a double bottom with a lower low, but it held this support area that we needed to hold. Resistance to break again is going to be right around the 1805. If we can break 1805, we'll bring it up to 1886 to $19. And that's going to be your other one. 1886 is going to be another hard resistance. I don't think it's going to fly to the moon. Eventually it might. Pun-wise. Maybe one day, 5 years from now, hey, we're going to have flights to the moon. Let's take them. So it's that space. I'm semi-bullish on space. I'm not bearish at all. But we got to see how people react to this offering that they're going to have come out. And I'll be right back. I'm going to get me a drink of water. Okay. Do you think the fourth corner? What do you think? What do you think of the 4-hour time frame? You know, I don't use it as much. I use the 20-day time frame, 1 hour. I like using that a lot. I have 3 different time frames that I do use quite consistently. And actually 4, and it depends on how the market conditions are. When the crash happened a couple months ago, I was talking about 20 years monthly, and I haven't pulled up 20-year time frame probably for a long time. Maybe 2016 I was looking at them, looking at a 10-year time frame. But it all depends on market conditions. For right now, I'm using a 3-year weekly, and and if we do have more drama, I'll go back to the 20-year monthly, and I use the yearly daily, and I use the 20-day 1 hour, and then I use the 10-day 30-minute, not as much as I use the 20-day 1 hour, and then I'm pretty adamant about using the daily 1 minute. But sometimes I'll sit back and I'll look at the daily 3-minute. It's a little bit more clearer picture on the candlesticks. But those are the different time frames that I like to use. Yep, John Pearson, that's right. That was John Pearson is probably one of the first charts I ever started using. And Ameritrade TOS has a John Pearson setup. And I used to use that on a daily chart. And I'd look at it and compare to John Pearson's pivot points to mine. And a lot of times when we were accurate and we both hit each other, it was an indicator that I'd like to trade. So let's see what's next. Thank you for the analysis, Jim. SDC. We did space. We're going to look at SDC next. Been here for about an hour now. Do this for another half hour, and then I'm going to relax and give my vocal cords a rest. SDC's had a pretty good little run here lately. After filing a patent infringement complaint against Candid Care, people were very bullish on Smile Direct last week. I didn't take the trade. I just didn't get it. I just didn't study it or look at it. Just kind of just threw it off because I had so many other trades that I was looking at. Earnings 513 after close. Looks like earnings are going to be coming out soon. Let's look at the yearly chart. I always like to look at the news. I have rules, 5 rules that I go by when I'm looking at a chart. And one of them is being in the now, looking at the news. So we do have a yearly pivot point right here that we need to break at 772. If we can break that 772, we're going to go up higher into these other little areas right in here, and then you have that huge gap. But I'll use these here as reference tools. So we've got a couple more here. Magnify this. Bam. Bam. And bam. What did this stock go down on us? Have a bad day Friday? Sure enough. This is an indication that people are getting out of the trade and were tired of it. And this would have been one that you had a lot of patience, especially if you were stuck in it already. Had a lot of patience to get back in down here and try to bring it up back to a 50% retracement. Now I talk about Fibonacci's and a 50% retracement on a breakout trade. Here's a good example. Pulled back right to that 50% retracement, and look what happened over here. See what happened there? It hit that 50% retracement and then pulled back to support, which we had a little issue down here. So Friday wasn't a good day for this trade, that's for sure. But let's pull up the 20-day. It's had a wonderful run and lower highs. Then it just kept on going. So I'm going to draw a trend line from right here. I'm going to show you how I find a support level on something that I think might be pulling back just a little bit. Now I'm going to run this trend line up against the bases of these candles right there. So I got a support level where we had this previous high right here. Bam. So no lower than $5-6, I think. It could drop another buck on us. It's had a nice, beautiful run. People are going to get kind of tired of the trade. Some will keep on watching it. We have a resistance level right here, right around the 773, 76 area. So that's going to be like a double top. But I expect it to pull back one more time maybe this week, maybe Monday and Tuesday, and then start to retrace back up. If it pulls back to this area right in here at 619, 620 area, the 630, somewhere in here, between 626, that's going to be a strong buy if it wants to hold this trend. And I think it will. I think it will. I think it'll hold that trend line and bounce back up. And then find resistance level right here, right around the 708. I don't expect it to plow back up here to a double top right off the bat. I expect a little pullback, and that little pullback is going to be that support area at 627. Then you got 650, and that first support's right here at 686. And then resistance to break is going to be that 711 up to this spot at 736, maybe a double top at 776. SDC, and it's very talked about. Social media is all over it. So this is one, we do have the TTM starting to curl up a little bit. So yeah, we'll just see how this plays out. We do have a little support level, like I said, at 627 with a resistance to break right here at 711. Then on up to that double top. That's SDC. Okay, let's see who else is next. BCRX. I hope this kind of helps you enjoy your day a little bit. You know, we're all stuck in the house. Can't do much. This is a time to tell your friends to start thinking about trading. Start thinking about getting into maybe. I have faith in America. I think what's going to happen is we're going to get a lot more. Going to turn into more of a gig economy. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. But that's when a lot of different. You do what you love. You become your own boss. You become your own sole proprietor. I've been gigging for the last 30 years. And I've had an art gallery. I've had a picture frame shop. Now own a janitorial business. And now me in Vegas operate I Love Stocks. So, you know, I do believe that America will come out stronger and better than ever. It'll be one of the biggest financial institutions of the world. We just got to make sure that we adapt to change, and I'm an optimistic kind of person in a way. I've always been ever since I was a little kid. I've had Kool-Aid stands, newspaper routes, mowed yards. I've always had something on the side as a gig for me to make money. I was a stand-up comedian for a while. I played music for a while. You know, I'm not the best musician around, but I'm just another element to a band. So there's always opportunity in America. And if you have something that you really love and like to do, now's the time to maybe make up your mind and maybe take that extra step and having your dreams come true. We definitely have had a V recovery so far on the market since the sell-off. I'm not saying it can't pull back more, which it probably could, but I think we're in a place now where we're going to start cleaning the house, and new businesses are going to come out, old businesses are going to leave, and it's just a great opportunity to find your dream. So we're going to look at SDC. Support level at 671. I see where we pulled back on Friday here. So we have a low support, no lower than 625. I think I already talked about this one, didn't I? Yeah. We're going to talk about BCRX. None of you would have said nothing, huh? You'd let me go on. Okay, let's look at the yearly chart on BCRX. Let's clear this up. We had a yearly high, man. We had a real nice high up here. Wonder what happened back on 5/17/19. Something bad happened. And then it just kept on going down, going back up. So I want to look at the news. I want to see what the recent news is on this. Earnings news to pick up the pace. Small caps, $10 price target. Thoughts on Slack. This is a farming company. Okay, so I'm not too bullish on it. We have a hard resistance we got to break here at 429. I've seen this little candle right here. So right there at 429. Take off the news. Yeah, I'm not very bullish on this trade. I'd be bullish probably if it pulled back to this 200 right here at 271. Then we'll draw another line right in here where I see this consolidated area. Right there. And you got a low support right here at the 276. That moving average will move around a little bit, but I see where it kind of consolidated in here. We had a little spot here, consolidated period here. This kind of pulled back right here. So low support at 277. Your next one's going to be right around this 306 area. Then you got 330. And then you've got a pivot point right here, right around the 356, with a resistance level right here at that spot. I'm looking over here at the 382. 389 area. If we can break that 389, we'll double top at 431. But for right now, I think we're going to pull back to support level at around this 276, 280 area, and that'll be a strong buy off that 200 EMA BCRX. That first one, second one's going to be right here at 304. That first one at 327. And then the resistance to break is going to be up in here right around that 482 area, with a double top at 431. So this is one you want to watch the momentum. We did have a nice green candles here. It is, the TTM is up, so it is showing a little bit of bullishness. BCRX, I hope that helps, Limerick. And we got NAT. And then we'll look at MIST. My 2019 trend lines on here. We're going to go ahead and erase them. We definitely pulled back pretty hard and found a little resistance level right around the 950. So the yearly pivot point is going to be right in here, right around the 1042 area. That's going to be my yearly pivot point. I want to call it a channel. I want to make this my yearly pivot point channel between $10 and 1042. We did pull back pretty hard on it last week, and we could have a lower double bottom right here around 769. But let's see what the news is about. Okay, Mattel licensed over 1,000 songs from Barbie. So this is Mattel. Music licensing agreement with Warner Music. That's a pretty big little deal there. Group announce. Okay, so this is a toy making company. Ah, I got the wrong ticker up here. I put Matt. It's supposed to be Nat. Dadgum you, Jim. Oh, that's another embarrassing moment for Washboard Jim. Well, let's start fresh. Nat. Tanker stock. We noticed that the shippers were having a pretty good week last week. A lot of them ran. A lot of them had a nice little breakout. Nat ran all the way to $9 and kind of pulled back to a support area. And that's going to be right here, right around the 517. I think it's going to be a strong buy. And we have a couple other spots right in here. But we definitely broke out of a trend. And we had a real nice couple weeks. And then she kind of pulled back. We had a $9. She pulled back to $6.12. So we're going to draw a few resistance lines in here. Yeah, I'm bullish on that. Especially after the nice little pullback we had. It did have a double bottom right here at this resistance level. And I'll magnify that up and show you what I'm talking about. It's just right in here where it pulled back and found kind of support for 2 days at 580. That's going to be a solid support. We did have that over in here. We had these little candle bases right here. So that's going to be a solid support on that. Anything below that, we could have more drama. It could pull back to this area right down here, right around 474. But the 583 needs to hold. And if that holds, that's going to be a pretty good little support level. And bring it back up to resistance level right around the 628. 628, 651, and 690. I don't see it going back up to $9 again. Not for a while. But I do see that we did have a nice little pullback with a double bottom. And it did find a support level off this resistance at 580. So 580 needs to hold. If not, it's going to go down to these other three levels. No lower than 474, 517, and 546. If it does decide to retrace back up, take the trade maybe up here to around 690 to 720. And that's going to be NAT. I hope that helps out a little bit. Mark. And we're going to look at a couple more, and then we're going to go ahead and call it quits. Let's look at MIST. I'm personally thinking about throwing some classes 3 times a week on the technicals of a trade, on how I trade. So if anybody likes to join or thinks that's a good idea, email ilovestocks.com on our website. Or let me know down here in the message part if that's a good idea or not, so we can go back and look at it. Right down here where the comment section is. If you're interested in maybe taking some hour classes 3 times a week, maybe on a Monday, Wednesday, and then on a weekend for like a good hour and a half session. And we'll go into chart patterns. We'll talk about candlesticks. We'll talk about how do we recognize a breakout, double tops, triple tops, black crows, white crows, soldiers. So that's just something that you want to ponder and think about. And down in the comments section, if you go ahead and think that's a good idea, let me know. There'll be a small little fee, but it'll be a little private club that we can analyze the market on Monday and Wednesday, and then have like a little jam session on Saturday or Sunday for a couple hours. And we'll go through one thing at a time for a couple of months. And we'll talk about chart patterns. We'll talk about momentum. We'll talk about key indicators of a breakout. Talk about 5 steps that you need to know, 5 steps to build to become a better trader. And there's just all kinds of everybody trades different. There's no one, it's just like a fingerprint. Nobody can trade the exact same. It's either you're a little late or you're a little too soon. And I'd rather be a little too soon than a little late on a trade. So MIST. We're going to look at MIST, Milestone Pharmaceuticals. I like the title of it. Up 20%, 28% off halt last week. I have to probably look into more of the news. I'm going to see what kind of float we got in here. A float also is a catalyst for me to determine how I want to take a trade. And they don't show the float on it, so caca on that. If you know what the float is, go ahead and type it in the room. MIST. Got a huge gap to fill. I mean, this is enormous. We did break a double top resistance here at 333. So you have to kind of wonder how this trade's going to work out, you know. It's definitely a little bit bullish. I would expect it for it to pull back to this support level at 338. But we're going to look at the 20-day real fast, and then we're going to look at the daily 1 minute. There's a spot here, and I'm seeing a little spot right in here. Okay, and then we got a resistance we got to break at 439. Support level is going to be right down here where we had this last hump. Right here at right around the 308. That's going to be your solid support. So we got three different support areas. The low one's going to be right around 311. I have to see that hold. And then your next one's going to be 333, 359, and then resistance to break at 496 to 438. Now, I always talk about patience. Traders like to rush, like to jump into a trade. They like to hurry. They feel like they need to be in something all the time. There might be a day go by where I don't take a trade because I'm just not in the mood, or I don't feel good, or it's all about mind over matter with me. You know, I could put my fist through a windshield, but I'm not going to do it until I'm confidently, mentally ready to do that. I used to box, and I learned a lot about that mind over matter when I boxed and played sports. Played baseball and basketball, so it's always about mind over matter. And it's one catalyst that and there might be days where I take 4 or 5 trades and I'm in a good mood and I can feel the momentum of the market and how bullish it is. And then there's times where I feel like the market's overextended. We've had too big of a run. It's time for a small pullback, for a small correction. A lot of traders don't get this gut feeling, and you'll get it the more time you trade. That feeling will come in. So patience, and that's what I'm looking at here with MIST. I want to use patience. I want to see if this thing wants to pull back and hold at 359 if I'm not in the trade. If I am in the trade and it doesn't hold at 359, I maybe want to go ahead and get out of the trade a little bit below it and see if I can get back in it at 311. Or if I want to just go ahead and cost average down, if I like the company and I'm very bullish on it, then I'll go ahead and cost average down on it. Now, a lot of experienced traders, a lot of traders can't do that. They can't cost average down on a trade because they don't have that gut feeling that I'm talking about. They just want to go ahead and cost out, see if they can make up their money. But if you know in your gut that this is a bullish trade and it's just going through a typical little sell-off right now, and that's what I did with Gild, and I'm going to walk through Gild with you here for the last ticker, how I traded this on Friday. This was definitely for me, was an emotional trade that I took on Friday. It almost brought me to tears. So we got a low support here at 311. Tears of joy, not distress. We got 333 and 359. Now, if that 359 doesn't hold, we want to wait to get in the trade at 311. So that's when you want to take your patience and just keep watching it and watch the tape and see if any news pops out on it. Resistance to break is going to be 396 to 438. But being in the now will help you a lot with that gut feeling. And I want to talk about X. That's missed. 311 support with a resistance to break at 369 with a hard resistance at 439 where you want to consider taking profit. I'm going to write down Gild because I want to talk about Gild as the final trade. X. So let's pull up the yearly chart. Let's erase all these old lines. United States Steel Corporation. Now, there's one thing that hits my head right now when I'm thinking about steel. I don't think there's not too much construction is going to go on for another year. But there might be a stimulus package, a restructure package to put some of these contractors back to work. And to me, that's the catalyst for steel to maybe break a resistance level. And that we're talking about X. So we have a yearly pivot point right here at 1007. That's going to be a hard resistance. Then we've got a support. I've got my other, I'm going to use a different chart. Let's pull up the yearly again. Yeah, so we've got a yearly pivot point. What I mean by pivot point is where it was here at one time and it decided 3 different times if it was going to pull back or if it was going to break resistance. And then we did break resistance on the 3rd attempt. And it ran all up, found resistance up here, and then finally, it thought about it on this day and said, we can't do it. We're going to go ahead and pull back when the corona started kicking butt and started getting pretty nasty. And this was the time that, China had a pretty big mess going on over there, and then you had the UK, and so construction just totally stopped, more or less. So we've regained a little bit. I'm not 100% bullish on this trade until we find out that we get a stimulus package. And I'll be looking at steel, X, and I'd be looking at CAT, K-A-T. So we got an 864. We'll place right here at 804. I'm looking at this spot and these candles right here on the yearly. And we had this little pullback right here to that. And then we got another one right here. Resistance to break is going to be that 864 up to this higher channel up here right around the 946. Actually, I see. I'm kind of try to find a spot in here. There it is, right there. Another one right up here. There we go. So let's pull this back to the 20-day. I've got support level. Oh, this is solid right here. This is solid support. I'm going to turn that into a red line. I'll tell you why I think that's a solid support. See where we had this high up here? You see where we had the 50% retracement on the 20-day? We didn't hold that high, so it kind of pulled back. And then we had higher lows right in here. And we had an ascending triangle right here. And that's where she went ahead and broke out of that ascending triangle. And then bounced on up. Found resistance up here right around the 814, 815 area. And then once she found resistance, she pulled back and hit that support level right here at 720. This is something you really want to pay attention to and you want to keep your eye on. And I'm going to go ahead and chalk this up. And then we're talking about X. This little area right here was a resistance level. So that was a resistance level. And once we broke this ascending triangle, she went ahead and broke out. So in all faith, and it consolidated almost all day long up here, and that was the time to put in your mind maybe it's time to exit the trade, because it consolidated at that 815 level all day long. And if you were down in here at 680, I would have definitely got out of that trade. No questions, buts, or anything at that resistance level. So we're going to try to find a couple more resistance levels. Right there, and then another one right here. Whoop, I'm going to change this. One right there, as I said, and then another one right here. I'm using the base of this candle and this kind of fulfillment right in here, and then we got another one right here. Okay, now I'm going to look at the stock and I'm going to analyze it. I don't see it going any lower than back down to this 61.80. That'd be like my third low strong buy. I would like to see it hold this 724 area because of that previous high we had right here on the 20-day. We did pull back to that same area right here and bounced right off of it. So if it does pull back to that spot, that's going to be a double bottom. It's going to be a double bottom bounce. And then it'll go ahead and bounce up and find resistance right here at 765. Now that's the resistance that needs to break. At 765 up to these higher highs right here around $8. And if it can hold that $8, we'll have us another double top here at 815. But I'm not real bullish on this trade until we come out with some kind of stimulus package for infrastructure. So I'm thinking in my mind, I'm going to wait for it to pull back at 724 for a double bottom, and then maybe get out of the trade right around 766, or take it up here to the $8 area, and that'll be a hard resistance, and that's going to be X. I hope that makes sense to you. Any other questions? We're about done here. Everybody have a good time. Any ways you think I can improve this, add to it, let me know. I'm about ready to sign off and have the rest of the day to myself. Please subscribe, ring that bell for future updates. Vegas and I are posting videos on here on a daily basis. She's going to come out a little bit later with a watch list of a couple penny stocks that she started executing here for a couple of times. And thank you. Appreciate that. And I want to personally start maybe having some lessons here in a couple weeks, maybe at the end of the month. Come up with some kind of strategic game plan to have a series of lessons for like 3 months. And it's going to be limited to maybe 20 people or more. It depends on what kind of mood I am, and there will be a small fee that goes along with it. We do have a website also, so if you're not familiar with our website, it's called I Love Stocks. We have a little Twitter page right here. Hit that follow button, like button. Vegas is posting alerts in here on a daily basis. We also have a place where the chat service is and how you set up. We offer a 7-day trial, full access to the room for $20 a week for your first week, and if you like it, you can stick around. The fees are $50 a month. We have 2 different rooms in the chat room. We have an options room and a chat room for just regular stocks. We do have some real good traders on here. We're starting to build it up, so always remember that. Also, we have our little stock twits. You can follow us on StockTwits if you have a StockTwits account. I have mine there. Vegas has hers here. Always go to that I Love Stocks website, hit that follow button. I'm really impressed with how Miss Vegas has really become a technically and fundamentally a pretty good trader here in the last, ever since I've known her. There's always room for improvement in everybody. We're always learning every day. I've seen this lady really pick up and learn different ideas, and she's always learning and sharing her ideas. And so, I give her thumbs up. I've always traded around ladies. I think it brings a different atmosphere into the trade when you're trading. Also, we have a Pinterest link and then our YouTube channel. And you can go back and see the couple of videos we did this morning. We did one on AAL, Warren Buffett. I kind of disagree with him on this one. He waited a little too late to be selling it. Now, I don't understand why he sold it at a bottom. I'm not sure where he got out at. Then we had a video we did on Elon. He says the price is too low. Oops, he said his price was too high. I think it's too low. So, well, that's about it. I hope everybody enjoyed. My crystal ball says tomorrow that we're going to have maybe a flat red day, and it's going to rebound and turn green. That's what my crystal ball is telling me. I wanted to talk about one more trade. I want to talk about Gild. This is a trade I took. I just want to talk to you about sometimes the emotions that go into a trade. And we'll share this real fast. Just give me a second here to find it. And I want to talk about what happens when you're in a trade, And this is the kind of emotion that I've been on, that I was on Gild in Friday. I seen the pullback, so I got optimistic. And I was up here at the anxiety level where I wanted to hurry up and get into the trade, and the trade started to pull back. And I was excited about it because of what I was hearing in the morning on CNBC, but I didn't notice that it had a bunch of downgrades. It had like 3 downgrades, so the bears were all over this trade Friday. And it had 3 downgrades, and I just didn't notice that. And I don't know why they downgraded it. It made no sense to me. None at all, unless they were trying to get into the trade. So on that first initial dip, right about in here, I jumped into the trade. And let's look at the emotion that I was in on this trade. I'm still in it. So I got in this trade 3 different times. At first I got it in it at 122, right at 841. I'm going to pull up the chart here. So right about 841, right in here, I got into the trade. And I was ready to go ahead and take the dive. I'm going to go ahead and draw a support line right there too. The computer's acting up. So I jumped in the trade right off the bat. I loved the way this pulled back. I'm very bullish on GILD in my own mind. And then when I heard what was going on in the news, that maybe they're ready to have FDA approval, I said I'm very bullish on this trade. So I took my first attempt to get into the trade, and it bounced up on me a little bit. And then right after that, right around 8:43, 2 minutes later, it dipped on me. So I said, I'm going to cost average down on this trade, and I'm going to buy 2 more shares and make an equal of 5. So I got back in it a couple minutes later. This time my emotions were starting to get a little bit shaky. And I'm going to pull up that emotional chart. By this time, I started getting a little bit of denial and a little bit of fear. And I wasn't to the desperation or the panic point yet. But I was thinking, wow, man, this thing should have already bounced up on this good pullback, especially of what I heard in the morning on CNBC, and they interviewed the CEO. So I figured the momentum was behind it. So I jumped in on fear. And that was my second time to get into the trade. And that was right here at 113, about 9 cents below that. And I bought 2 more shares right at 843. We'll go back to the chart. I had got in at 841, which was right about in here. And then it dipped on me more, and it dipped on down here at 843. So I jumped back in it, and I started seeing it consolidating a little bit. And I decided to go ahead and take it back on up. And she ran up to about 79 bucks. And then right after that, I got into it again on another pullback. And let me pull this up. And that was at the price, that was right around 855. I bought more at 106. So by this time I was exhausted. I'm going, I'm looking at my high risk, low risk potential here, and I was down here at the panic mode, desperation. I didn't want to see the stock go much lower than that. So I figured this is it. It's not going to go below $1. At that time, I realized that there was 3 downgrades on it. I'm going, oh shit, what have I done now? I already had $1,200 invested in the trade, so I went ahead and I bought more. And let's pull back the chart. And that was at 855. And that was right here is where I got into that trade. Right about in here. So I more or less did a head and shoulders on it, thinking that we were going to bounce back up. And then she went ahead and pulled on back. And then I started making money. I was up a couple $100 by the time it went back up to 90 up to 80 bucks. And then she started selling off again. So this went on for 6.5 hours all day long. And I started noticing, and I didn't buy. I wish I'd seen it when it was down here at 84. I told myself that maybe I was going to double down and buy 10 more contracts, put another $800 in it. Kind of wish I did. But by this time, I've already made 3 trades on it, and I have a 3-time charm rule, or 3 times a charm, and I don't want to push it, because I already pushed it by then. But by this time, when it was down here, I'm sitting here looking at my little despondence. I'm going, shit. I'm at the panic mode. I'm hitting depression, and then I'm starting to see the lower highs. And I'm just kind of going, I'm mind numbed. I was in the hole most of the day, down more than $500 or $600 at a time. And I'm going, okay, I'm down initially around $500 on this trade. Half my investment's gone. 40% of it's gone. So what should I do? Should I go ahead and hold it? And I decided to hold it because I'm going to swing it. I already made up my mind that I was going to swing the trade anyway into the weekend. So here I got in at that 106 was my next price that I got in, which brought the cost down initially from 122 down to 122. And then by the end of the day, Gild, I was up $570, I think. Let me pull that up. It's already cleared up on me, so I can't. I got up from being down $525. I ended up bouncing up $570 by the end of the day within a half hour. And then I just started shedding. I mean, I was overwhelmed with excitement. Water was coming out of my eyes a little bit, and I'm kind of rubbing my nose. And I'm saying, okay, man, this is great. That FDA news came out, and that's what the catalyst we've been waiting for a long time. So that's part of the emotions that a person goes through when they're in a trade. And always remember to keep this chart around you. Everybody feels these emotions. And then you get back to optimism, and that's where I am right now. So I want to bring it back to maybe to a thrill, to whatever this word is, euphoria, or whatever we call it. I want to get back up there. I'm going to go ahead and take the trade and sell it at my resistance level. And, I think if there's bears all over this, or some that are upset about the trade, but if I can bring this, that's not the chart I want to look at. Bring us to a 20-day. So I'm going to try to bring it back up to 86, but I have a hard resistance right here that I wanted to hit at 82.23. Now I would love to bring it back up to this 85 area, 84, 83.90, and that's where I might start to scale out of the trade when I get in Monday. I should have some pretty good profit by then, at least 1,200 by the end of the day. But if I can break this resistance at 85, that would be my strong target. But who knows, the sucker after this news might run back up here to 89, and that's going to be Gild. So that's just a couple little lesson I wanted to give here today about the emotions that you go through when you're in trade. This one I was really emotional on Friday. I felt like I was brilliant, getting in the trade, and then it went up a little bit, and then it just started pulling back, and I never gave up on it. I stuck with my plan. I cost average down, and then I end up walking away with $570 at least in my P&L. It's still there. It can drop down on me. If it starts to pull back a little bit, I might go ahead and sell some of the position, but I feel like we're going to get another little bounce back up. And we should have some upgrades on it, and people will be talking about Gild on Monday. So, well, I know you miss us. You know where we are. When you get back and you want to join a good room, just let us know, my friend. But that's it for the lesson today. I hope we all had a good time. I overextended it a little bit, but I wanted to talk about Gild and how I took the trade and the emotions that we all go through when we're in a trade. And, come up, last time I did this, I said come up with 5 criterias of a game plan. I want you to be thinking about that tonight and write down on paper 5 different ideas, 5 different technicals, 5 different things that want to get you into a trade. And I've done a lesson on that before. I got a video on it, but that's going to be coming up also when I do start doing these lessons. We're going to talk about how to keep a good watch list, what technicals do I need, what fundamentals do I need to stay in a trade and find a good trade. We're going to talk about supports, resistances, and pivot points, which I'm going to be doing on a weekly basis anyway for everybody. That's just going to be what this show is about. It's going to last 2 hours every weekend. That'll always be free. But I'm going to elaborate a lot more about how to become a good trader and the things that I've gone through and learnt, and the do's and the don'ts, and who to follow and who not to follow. Everybody wants to try to learn, but you can tell in a person's language if they're a pumper or if they're into it just for themselves. You can determine that right off. It don't take long. It don't take long at all to determine, if this is someone I want to hang with or if this is someone I don't want to hang with. It's usually I can tell by their mouth about what they say. I don't like to. Our room is a pleasant room. We try to get along and we try to harmonize together. I don't put up with any kind of bull crap in the room. You get one chance and that's it. I might give you a second, but it's going to take a lot of apologizing. But there's just a lot of things to learn to become a trader, and the success in a trader and the technicals and the fundamentals. And I'm more of a technical trader, and Vegas is far more the fundamental part of the trader. And that's what makes this room so unique. And there's people in the room that were, Tony Stark was talking about. I was reading a comment he made, and he said, everybody has a different watch list. We all look at different stocks. You know, we can't watch them all. So it's always good to have other people, have a good following, have good people that a good group, you know. You got to learn from somewhere. You just don't learn on your own. People have paid thousands of dollars to learn nothing. And then, you know, I've learned from YouTube. I've learned from other traders. I think and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I've learned the most from beginners, people that are beginner traders, because they're the ones that ask the questions, and they're the ones that make me have to look something up. So I appreciate the beginners, and that's what our room's more or less orientated to, is to help the beginner and to get you from stop making them bad mistakes. So always remember the emotions of a trade. And subscribe, ring that bell, hit that like button, share this video, share the videos, talk about us, let us know how you feel. There's a comment section down below. And this will be recorded, and it'll stay up on YouTube after it's done with its little rigmarole. So always remember, I love stocks. And have a great day, and let's have a great week. I think the market's going to be a little bearish this coming week. Not much. You know, Warren Buffett saying out that he's all cash, and you know, I think some of these people are looking for a small pullback. I'm more bullish on the market right now because of the opening up. It was my catalyst of America to bring it back to life again. So I love stocks. Everybody have a great day, and thank you very much. I love stocks AC every day. Let's go be free. Open up the country, open up our cities. Keep your hands clean. Wash them hands. Germex. Brought to you by I Love Stocks.